Ole Miss Rebels football. The Ole Miss Rebels football program represents the University of Mississippi, also known as Ole Miss. The Rebels compete in the Football Bowl Subdivision (FBS) of the National Collegiate Athletic Association (NCAA) and the Western Division of the Southeastern Conference (SEC). As of 2020, the team is coached by Lane Kiffin. Founded in 1893, as the state's first football team, Ole Miss has won 6 Southeastern Conference titles: 1947, 1954, 1955, 1960, 1962, and 1963, and 3 national titles: 1959, 1960, 1962. History. The Ole Miss football team played its first season in 1893, and since then have fielded a team every year except for 1897 due to a yellow fever epidemic and 1943 due to World War II. In that first season, the team compiled a 4-1 record under head coach Alexander Bondurant. In 1899, Ole Miss became a member of the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Association (SIA). The program then joined the Southern Conference in 1922 and the Southeastern Conference in 1933. In 1947, Johnny Vaught became head coach and led the team to its first conference championship. Vaught coached Ole Miss for 25 seasons, compiling a 190-61-12 record and winning 6 conference championships, 3 national championships, and 10 bowl games. Since Vaught's departure in 1973, the Rebels have gone through a number of head coaches, none of them able to replicate the success of the Vaught era. The longest tenured coach since Vaught was Billy Brewer, who in 11 seasons from 1983 to 1993 compiled a 68. The team's head coach is Lane Kiffin, who took over the role in 2019 after Matt Luke was fired following a 4-8 2019 season and an Egg Bowl loss to rival Mississippi State 2021. Johnny Vaught era 1947, 1970, 1973. The modern era of Ole Miss football began in 1947, when Harold Drew was ousted in favor of his line coach, Johnny Vaught. A former All-American at Texas Christian University (TCU), Vaught led the Ole Miss program to national prominence over the next 24 years, posting 23 winning records and making the team a fixture in the national polls. Under Vaught, Ole Miss won the 1959 Dunkel System National Championship, the 1960 Football Writers Association of America Dunkel System and Williamson System National Championships, and the 1962 Litkenhis Ratings National Championship. Just 2-7 in 1946. The Rebels went 9-2 in Vaught's first season at the helm, winning the first of his 6 SEC titles: 1947, 1954, 1955, 1960, 1962, 1963. The 1947 season also saw Ole Miss great Charlie Kennerly become the first Rebel player to seriously contend for the Heisman Trophy, placing 4th in the voting. The Rebels were among the winningest programs in the country during the 1950s. From 1950 to 1959, Ole Miss posted an 80-21-5 record, 778 winning percentage. The 778 winning percentage was third only to Oklahoma and Miami OH during that decade. Vaught's 1959 squad, which was honored as the SEC Team of the Decade, was ranked the 3rd best collegiate football team from 1956 to 1995 by Jeff Sagarin Ratings in January 1996. In the 1960s, Vaught guided the Rebels to a 77-25-6 record and a 740 winning percentage, which was the 9th best during that decade. The Rebels were ranked atop the Associated Press poll for 3 weeks during the 1960 season and 1 week during the 1961 campaign. The 1960 unit is the only team to win a national championship that is recognized by the NCAA and the college football community at large. That squad finished 10-0-1. The only blemish was a 6-6 tie against LSU. The Rebels' 1962 season is Ole Miss' only undefeated and untied season, 10-0. In 1964, Ole Miss was ranked preseason No. 1 in the Associated Press poll. In 1965, Ole Miss had the nation's only undefeated team, though it was not selected as national champion. Vaught also made going to postseason play the norm rather than the exception for the Rebel football program. Ole Miss played in 15 consecutive bowl games from 1957-1971, a national record at the time. In all, Vaught led Ole Miss to 18 bowl games, posting a 10-8 record. For his efforts, Vaught was named SEC Coach of the Year 6 times: 1947, 1948, 1954, 1955, 1960, 1962. Vaught coached some of the best players in Ole Miss football history and produced 26 All-America first-teamers. He also coached 4 players who finished in the top 5 in the Heisman Trophy voting: Finnerly in 1947, Charlie Flowers 5th in 1959, Jake Gibbs 3rd in 1960, and Archie Manning 4th in 1969, 3rd in 1970. Failing health forced Vaught to resign his position in 1970. He was succeeded by Billy Kennard. Billy R. Kennard Era 1971-1973. Billy Kennard became the first Ole Miss alumnus to head up the football program, while Frank Bruiser Kennard, an offensive line coach under Vaught since 1948, was named athletic director that same year. The Rebels went 16-9 under Billy Kennard, including a 10-2 record and a 41-18 Peach Bowl victory over Georgia Tech in his first year in 1971. Kennard's 10 victories are tied for 4th most by a first-year head coach in NCAA Division I history. Kennard coached the Rebels through the 1972 season and through the 3rd game of the 1973 season. After the disappointing 5-5 season in 1972, the alumni were advocating to have Kennard removed as head coach. The administration fired Kennard after the Rebels started the 1973 season 1-2. The 2 losses were a shutout to Missouri, 17-0, and an upset by Memphis State, 17-13. Both Billy Kennard and Frank Kennard were fired, and Johnny Vaught was rehired as both the head coach and athletic director. Following the 1973 football season, Vaught resigned once again as head coach, but remained on as athletic director. His final record with the Rebels was 190-61-12. The 190 victories still rank Vaught in the top 25 winningest coaches in NCAA Division I history, and he is the 4th winningest coach in SEC history. In 1979, Vaught was inducted in the National College Football Hall of Fame. Ken Cooper Era 1974-1977. Ken Cooper, an assistant under Kennard since 1971, was named head coach on January 17, 1974, and took Ole Miss through the 1977 season. Cooper compiled a 21-23 record, and his tenure is probably best remembered for the matchup with Notre Dame in September 1977. In one of the most memorable games in Rebel football history, Ole Miss upset Notre Dame 2013 in Mississippi Memorial Stadium on September 17, 1977, in Jackson. That loss was Notre Dame's lone setback of the 1977 campaign, as they finished the season with an 11-1 record and claimed both the AP and UPI national titles. Cooper is now the assistant head coach and offensive line coach at Benedictine Military School in Savannah, Georgia. Steve Sloan, era 1978-1982. Following the 1977 season, Steve Sloan, the former All-American quarterback at Alabama under Paul Bear Bryant, was hired as the new Rebel head coach and began his 5-year stint in 1978. Sloan posted a 20-34 record from 1978-1982. Billy Brewer, era 1983-1993. After stepping outside the Ole Miss family football tree the previous 9 seasons, Ole Miss looked for a familiar face to lead the football program, and the Rebels found that person when Billy Brewer returned to Oxford to take over as head coach in December 1982. In his first season in 1983, Brewer guided the Rebels to their first winning regular season since 1977 with a 7-4 record. Tulane win a result of forfeit. The Rebels also went to their first bowl game since 1971, losing to Air Force 9-3 in the Independence Bowl. Brewer remained in Oxford for another 10 seasons, leading the Rebels to 5 winning seasons and 4 bowls, including Ole Miss' 1990 New Year's Day Gator Bowl appearance, which was the program's first January bowl game since 1969. He was named SEC Coach of the Year in 1986 8-3-1 record and 1999 3 record, and in 1986 the Rebels returned to the national rankings for the first time in over a decade. Brewer coached 11 years 1983-93 and compiled a 68-55-3 record, making him at the time the second winningest Ole Miss football coach behind Vaught. Brewer also led Ole Miss to 8 Egg Bowl victories over rival Mississippi State. Brewer was dismissed just prior to the 1994 season after the Inca Infractions Committee found him guilty of unethical conduct, and Ole Miss defensive coordinator Joe Lee Dunn took over as interim coach, directing the Rebels to a 4-7 record under difficult circumstances, highlighted only by a 34-21 victory over rival LSU. Tommy Tuberville, era 1995-1998. On December 2, 1994, Tommy Tuberville was selected as the coach in charge of getting the Rebels on the right track. After serving as an assistant coach on the collegiate level for 9 seasons, 8 at Miami and 1 at Texas A&M, Tuberville began creating excitement in his first season in 1995, finishing the campaign with a 6-5 record and an Egg Bowl victory over Mississippi State. That excitement grew in 1997, when Ole Miss recorded its best season since 1992 with an 8-4 record, a thrilling 15-14 Egg Bowl victory over Mississippi State, and a Motor City Bowl win over Marshall University. The bowl appearance was the program's first since 1992, and the Rebels earned a final national ranking of No. 22 in both polls. The revitalized Ole Miss program continued in its success in 1998, but suffered a setback after the Egg Bowl when Tuberville, despite repeated assurances that he would not leave and even going so far as to say, "They'll have to take me out of here in a pine box," agreed 2 days later to become the head coach at SEC West rival Auburn University. David Cutcliffe, era 1998-2004. David Cutcliffe took over as head coach on December 2, 1998. Cutcliffe, who came to Ole Miss from his offensive coordinator post at Tennessee, took over the reins just 29 days before the Rebels' Sanford Independence Bowl date versus Texas Tech. Despite the short preparation time for the game, Cutcliffe led the Rebels to a 35-18 victory over the Red Raiders, quite arguably the biggest upset of the 1998 bowl season. Cutcliffe brought with him to Oxford a high-powered offensive style that energized the Rebel fanbase. In the time from 1997 to 2003, the Rebels played in 6 bowl games, tied with Arkansas for the most bowl appearances among SEC Western Division schools during that span. Cutcliffe had 4 winning seasons in his first 5 seasons at Ole Miss in 1999 8-4, 2007 5, 2001 7-4, and 2002 7-6, becoming the first Rebel mentor since Harry Mayer 1938-41 to post winning marks in his first 5 years. Cutcliffe also directed Ole Miss to 4 bowl appearances in his first 5 seasons. In 2003, Cutcliffe guided the Rebels to a 10-3 overall mark and a share of the SEC West title with eventual BCS national champion LSU. Following their 31-28 victory over Oklahoma State in the Cotton Bowl Classic, the Rebels finished No. 13 in the final poll. It was Ole Miss' first New Year's Bowl since the 1991 Gator Bowl against Michigan. Despite his 44-29 record, 5 straight winning seasons, and guiding the team to its first 10-win season in over 30 years, Cutcliffe was fired by Ole Miss's athletic director Pete Boone in December 2004 after the team posted a disappointing 4-7 record and 3 consecutive losses to LSU. Ed Orgeron era 2005-2007. Ed Orgeron, regarded as one of college football's premier defensive line coaches and recruiters, was named the 35th head football coach in the history of the University of Mississippi on December 16, 2004. Orgeron, who took control of the Ole Miss program after serving the previous 7 seasons as defensive line coach at the University of Southern California, and played a role in Pete Carroll's Trojan Championship in 2004. He also served as USC recruiting coordinator from 2001 to 2004 and was named assistant head coach in 2003. Orgeron was named the 2004 National Recruiter of the Year by the Sporting News and Rivals.com. Orgeron's talent as a recruiter created a buzz among Rebel fans and drew national attention when Ole Miss 2006 signing class ranked as high as 15th in the rankings. His 2007 recruiting class was also listed among the best in college football No. 31 according to Scout.com. However, his recruiting success did not translate to on-the-field performance. In 2007, Ole Miss was last in the SEC in scoring offense, turnover margin, rushing offense, rushing defense, punt returns, opponent first downs, red zone offense, opponent third down conversions, field goal percentage, time of possession, and kickoff coverage. The 2007 season was an unmitigated disaster for the Rebels. They went winless in the SEC for the first time since 1982 and ended the season at 3-9-0-8 in SEC play. Orgeron was fired on November 24, 2007. 3 days later, Houston Nutt was hired as the next head football coach. Houston Nutt era 2008-2011. On November 27, 2007, Houston Nutt was hired as the 36th head football coach of the Ole Miss Rebels, just 5 weeks after having defeated Ole Miss as the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. During Nutt's first season, he guided the Ole Miss Rebels to a 9-4 record with marquee victories over the eventual BCS national champion Florida Gators squad, the reigning BCS national champion LSU Tigers, and the Texas Tech Red Raiders in the 2009 Cotton Bowl Classic. At the end of this season, the Rebels were ranked in the top 15 in both major polls. Nutt's tenure at Ole Miss crested with the 2009 season, and the Rebels would only win a total of 6 games in the next 2 years. In 2011, they went winless in SEC play. On November 7, 2011 due to what ESPN called the total decline of the program over the past 2 years. Athletic director Pete Boone forced Nutt to resign at the end of the season. NCAA investigators later concluded that Nutt had allowed student athletes to play while ineligible. Due to these violations, as well as others committed by his successor, Hugh Freeze, in 2019, the NCAA punished Ole Miss by stripping the team of 33 wins over 6 seasons. This included all 4 wins in 2010 and 2 wins in 2011, making them officially the first winless seasons for the Rebels in over a century. Hugh Freeze Era 2011-2017. On December 5, 2011, Hugh Freeze was announced as the new head coach of the Ole Miss Rebels football team. Freeze was previously the head coach at Arkansas State and had previously been the tight ends coach and recruiting coordinator from 2005-2007. In his first year, he went 7-6 and finished the regular season with a win over rival Mississippi State. The Rebels won their bowl game against Pitt in the BBVA Compass Bowl. In Freeze's second year, the Rebels went 8-5-3-5. The 2013 Rebels defeated then 6th-ranked LSU on a last-second field goal in Oxford and capped off the season with a 25-17 victory over Georgia Tech in the Music City Bowl. In 2014, Freeze led Ole Miss to one of its strongest seasons in 4 decades. The Rebels spent most of the season in the top 10, rising as high as 3rd in October, their highest ranking at that late stage in the season in almost half a century. They ultimately finished 9-3, only the 3rd time since Vaught's tenure that a Rebel team has won as many as 9 games. This garnered them a berth in the 2014 Peach Bowl, their first major bowl appearance since 1969. Freeze led to the Rebels to another strong season in 2015, perhaps the program's strongest since the undefeated and untied season of 1962. The 2015 season featured wins over ranked SEC West rivals LSU and Mississippi State, but was headlined by a road victory over then No. 2 ranked Alabama, their first win in Tuscaloosa since 1988 and only the first time they had beaten the Tide in back-to-back seasons. Ole Miss controlled their own destiny in the SEC West for much of the 2015 campaign, but ultimately finished in 2nd place. The Rebels earned a trip to the 2016 Sugar Bowl, their first appearance in this bowl game since 1970, where they beat Oklahoma State 48-20. Freeze led the Rebels to their first 10-win season since 2003, and only the 3rd since the Vaught era. On July 20, 2017, Freeze resigned after Ole Miss officials learned that he had used a university-provided cell phone to place calls to an escort service in a concerning pattern that began shortly after he took the job in 2011. NCAA investigators later concluded that Freeze had cheated on 15 occasions by breaking recruiting rules and allowing students to play who had not maintained the required academic standing. They also determined that his predecessor, Nutt, had broken similar rules. This constituted one of the worst violations ever, and in 2019 the NCAA punished Ole Miss by stripping the team of 33 wins over 6 seasons, including 7 from 2012, 8 from 2014, and 5 from 2016. This changed Freeze's official record at Ole Miss from 39-25 over 5 seasons to 12-25. The NCAA also banned the team from postseason play for 2 years, stripped it of scholarships for 4 years, and placed it on 3 years of probation. In 2019, the NCAA vacated 33 of the team's victories dating from 2010 to 2016 and levied a 2-year ban on postseason play as punishment for recruiting and academic violations under both Houston, Nutt, and Freeze. Matlock, Era 2017-2019. Co-offensive coordinator Matt Luke was named interim head coach the same day. In November 2017, Luke was named the permanent head coach after leading the Rebels to a 6-6 record, including a 31-28 Egg Bowl win over Mississippi State. In the 2019 Egg Bowl, Luke's recruit Elijah Moore performed a post-touchdown mockery of a urinating dog, costing the Rebels a penalty and ultimately losing the game by a missed extra point 2021. Luke was dismissed after the game. Lane Kiffin era 2020 present. On December 7, following a FAU blowout win in the CUSA championship game, it was confirmed by Ole Miss AD Keith Carter that Lane Kiffin, the then coach of FAU, would be the next head coach at Ole Miss. In his first season, Kiffin compiled a 5-5 record in an all-SEC conference schedule, including the 26-20 win over Indiana in the Outback Bowl in Tampa, Florida. Conference affiliations. Ole Miss has been affiliated with the following conferences: Independent 1893–1904, Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Association 1905–1921, Southern Conference 1922–1932, Southeastern Conference 1933 present. Championships. National championships. Ole Miss has been selected national champion 3 times by INCA-designated major selectors in 1959, 1960, and 1962. Ole Miss claims these 3 championships. The 2 major wire service polls of the Time AP poll and Coaches poll named Syracuse, Minnesota, and USC as the national champions in those years, respectively. Conference championships. Ole Miss has won 6 SEC championships. Divisional championship. The SEC has been split into 2 divisions since the 1992 season, with Ole Miss competing in the SEC West since that time. Ole Miss has won a share of 1 divisional title, but has yet to make an appearance in the SEC championship game. Plus co-champions. Head coaches. Ole Miss has had 38 head coaches in over a century of play. Plus includes interim status. Bowl games. Ole Miss has participated in 38 bowl games, compiled a record of 24-13 through the 2020 season. The school's victory in the 2013 BBVA Compass Bowl was subsequently vacated and is not included. Milestones. Most points ever scored in a game by Ole Miss came in a 114-0 win over Union College on October 29, 1904. Ole Miss became the nation's first college football team to fly en masse to a game in 1937. The team flew from Memphis to Philadelphia to play Temple University, Temple Owls University of New Mexico. Ole Miss' first game to ever be broadcast on television was in 1948 against Memphis. The speed limit on the Ole Miss campus is 18 mph in honor of Archie Manning, who wore the same number during his playing days at Ole Miss. Following Eli Manning's second Super Bowl win, the university changed the speed limit in some areas of campus to 10 mph to honor former All-American Rebel and son of Archie and Olivia Manning. Ole Miss plays a central role in Michael Lewis' book The Blind Side, Evolution of a Game, and its 2009 film adaptation, The Blind Side. Notable games. 1952, Maryland, the 11th-ranked Rebels splashed onto the national scene by defeating the 3rd-ranked Maryland Terrapins in Oxford on November 15, 1952 by the score of 21-14. This game is credited by many for being the catalyst to the great run the Rebels had from 1952. 1959, LSU on Halloween night, no. 3 ranked Ole Miss squared off with no. 1 ranked LSU in Baton Rouge, LA. The game was a defensive struggle with the Rebels clinging to a 3-0 lead in the 4th quarter. Future Heisman winner Billy Cannon changed the game off a fortuitous bounce on a punt return that went 89 yards. The replay is still played whenever a reference to this rivalry is made. Ole Miss had one last chance to pull off the win, but was stopped short on 4th and a yard at the goal line by Billy Cannon. LSU won 7-3. 1960, LSU on January 1, 1960. One of the most anticipated rematches in college football history took place, but no. Two ranked Ole Miss dominated no. One ranked LSU from start to finish and came away with a decisive 21-0 win over the Tigers. The Rebels finished the season having only given up 21 points all year, declared national champions by several polls, and named the third-rated team in history through 1995 by the Sagarin ratings, behind only two great Nebraska teams. 1969, Tennessee, more affectionately known as the Mule Game or the Jackson Massacre, the 18th-ranked Rebels faced off against the 3rd-ranked Tennessee Volunteers in Jackson, MS. Prior to the game, Tennessee's Steve Kiner was interviewed by Sports Illustrated. Asked about the Rebels and all their horses in the backfield, Kiner replied, "More like a bunch of mules." When asked specifically about Archie Manning, he responded, "Archie who?" This inspired the Rebels and to a 38-0 shellacking of the Vols, a win that pushed the Rebels into the 1970 Sugar Bowl. 1977, Notre Dame. On a hot, humid day, the Rebels took advantage of the weather to stun the 3rd-ranked Irish 2013. Was the only loss for the Irish that season as they went on to claim the 1977 AP National Championship. 1986, LSU Billy Brewer's 5-2-1 Rebels entered Tiger Stadium, where they had not won since 1968, to face 12th-ranked LSU. Ole Miss sophomore quarterback Mark Young and the Rebels built a 21-9 halftime lead. LSU stormed back in the second. With 12:09 remaining, LSU David Browndike booted a 21-yard FG that trimmed the lead to 21-19. Later, LSU QB Tommy Hodson led the Tigers from the LSU 34 to the Rebel 13. But, with only 0:09 to play, Browndike's potential game-winning 30-yard FG sailed wide left and ignited a wild celebration among Rebel fans jammed into southeast corner of Tiger Stadium. 1997, LSU. After a harsh two-season bowl ban, Tommy Tuberville's 1997 Rebels squad arrived in Baton Rouge with a 3-2 record and in search of a signature win. Meanwhile, the 5-1-0 8th-ranked Tigers entered fresh off of an upset of then no. 1-ranked Florida. After trailing 21-14 at the half, Ole Miss QB Stuart Patridge threw for a career-high 346 yards with 2 touchdowns. John Avery rushed for 137 yards and 2 scores. Their combined efforts accounted for all but 5 of the Rebels' 488 yards of total offense. The celebrated win at Tiger Stadium was the first for Ole Miss over a top 10 opponent since 1977. Ole Miss finished the season with a record of 8-4-4-4 SEC that included a Motor City Bowl win over Marshall. 2008, Florida. After 3 years of SEC purgatory, the Rebels desperately needed a spark. That spark came in the form of defeating the 4th-ranked Florida Gators 31-30 in Gainesville. Ole Miss took a 31-24 lead with 5 minutes to go in the game on an 86-yard touchdown pass thrown by Jevan Snead to Shea Hodge. Florida responded within 2 minutes to bring the game within 1, only to have their PAT blocked by Kentrell Lockett. Florida regained possession but turned the ball over on downs after Heisman winner Tim Tebow was stopped on 4th and 1. The win would catapult the Rebels to back-to-back Cotton Bowl victories. The win gave Ole Miss their 600th win all time. 2014, Alabama, the 11th-ranked Ole Miss Rebels, fought back from a 14-3 halftime deficit to knock off No. 1/3-ranked Alabama for the first time since 2003. Led by senior quarterback Bo Wallace's 3 touchdown passes and the nation's second-ranked defense, the Rebels made an emphatic statement that they were real title contenders. 2015, Alabama. On September 19, 2015, head coach Hugh Freeze AP No. 15 Rebels beat the AP No. 2 Alabama Crimson Tide 43-37 in Tuscaloosa, making Freeze only the third head coach, along with Les Miles and Steve Spurrier, to defeat a Nick Saban-coached team in back-to-back years. It was also the first time Ole Miss had beaten any Alabama team twice in a row and only the second Rebel win in Tuscaloosa, the only other having come in 1988 under Billy Brewer. The Tide turned the ball over 5 times, a number which includes 2 attempted kickoff returns and 3 interceptions by 3 different Ole Miss defenders. Tree Elston. The 2015 victory catapulted the Rebels to the No. 3 spot in the Associated Press Week 3 rankings. Uniforms. Ole Miss uses 3 jersey options along with 2 pant styles. White jerseys with red numbers and stripes are used on the road. These jerseys are paired with either gray pants with red and blue stripes or white pants with red stripes. Typically, Ole Miss uses one of 2 helmet designs. The Rebels' primary helmet is navy blue with a single red stripe and Ole Miss written in script on each side. The other helmet's blue is a lighter color, a shade known as powder blue. In 2017, Ole Miss used special helmets for a military appreciation game against Louisiana and a rivalry game against LSU. The military appreciation helmets were the same as the primary Navy design, except the logo on each side of the helmet was filled with an American flag design. The helmets worn against LSU were powder blue with jersey numbers on each side. Rivalries. Mississippi State. The battle for the Golden Egg, nicknamed the Egg Bowl, is the Rebels' last game of the season against in-state SEC rival Mississippi State University MSU. The teams have played each other 114 times since 1901, and the first game officially known as the Battle of the Golden Egg was in 1927. While it is called a bowl, the game is not a postseason bowl game, but a regular season SEC game. 29 Egg Bowls have been played on Thanksgiving Day. Ole Miss leads the series with 62-46. In 2014, the game gained much more national attention due to the postseason implications the game possessed. Mississippi State entered the game with a No. 4 ranking in college football playoff and had a spot in the playoff on the line entering the game against No. 19 Ole Miss. MSU also had a chance at making the SEC title game, where they needed a win and an Alabama loss. In an upset, Ole Miss beat the Bulldogs 31-17 and jumped from No. 19 to No. 9 in the college football playoff rankings. Both schools got New Year's 6 bowl games. Ole Miss would later vacate this win due to INCAA violations. Ole Miss entered the 2015 Egg Bowl with a No. 18 ranking in the college football playoff rankings, and MSU was No. 21. The game was considered to be a play-in game for the Sugar Bowl. Ole Miss entered the game as only 2-point favorites but won the Egg Bowl convincingly 38-27 and led by 25 points at halftime. This was Ole Miss's first road win against Mississippi State since 2003, and the first time that the Rebels beat the Bulldogs 2 years in a row since 2003-04. LSU. Ole Miss first played LSU on December 3, 1894, winning 26-6 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Throughout the 50s and 60s, games between the two schools featured highly ranked squads on both sides, and several matchups had conference, and at times, national title implications. Since then, the rivalry has only had one contest with significant national title implications. The 2003 loss to LSU decided the SEC Western Division champion and helped propel LSU to a national championship. The student bodies at both universities created a trophy for the LSU-Ole Miss rivalry in 2008 and renamed the matchup the Magnolia Bowl. Ole Miss won the first two official Magnolia Bowls in 2008 31-13 and 2009 25-23. LSU won their first official Magnolia Bowl in 2010 with a last-minute score 43-36. The 2010s featured several memorable Magnolia Bowls. LSU humiliated the Rebels 52-3 at Oxford in 2010. Les Miles ordered third-string quarterback Zach Mettenberger to take a knee 4 times after LSU gained a first-and-goal at the Ole Miss 1-yard line with 5 minutes to play. The Rebels lost the 2012 Magnolia Bowl 35-41 during the last minute of the game when LSU Jeremy Hill scored a 1-YD touchdown run. On October 19, 2013, an unranked Rebel team beat the No. 6th-ranked Tigers 27-24 on a last-second 46-yard field goal. In 2014, Ole Miss entered with a No. 3 ranking. No. 24 LSU pulled the upset by beating the Rebels 10-7 on a last-minute interception thrown by Rebels quarterback Bo Wallace. In 2015, No. 22 Ole Miss upset No. 15 LSU 38-17, which was Ole Miss's largest margin of victory over LSU since 1992. LSU leads the overall series over Ole Miss 64-41-4. Since the creation of the Magnolia Bowl, LSU leads the series 9-4. Arkansas. Ole Miss first played Arkansas in 1908, with Arkansas winning that game 33-0. Would play each other many times, though sporadically, over the next several decades, including 2 meetings in the Sugar Bowl in 1963 and 1970. Ole Miss won both Sugar Bowl matchups. The two teams have played each other annually since 1981. In the 1980s, Arkansas dominated the Rebels. The 1990 meeting between the two teams ended memorably. Having the ball inside the Ole Miss 20 and trailing by 4 with seconds remaining, Arkansas needed a score. Hogs handed the ball to running back Ron Dickerson, who seemed to have an open path to the end zone. At the goal line, safety Chris Mitchell stopped Dickerson at the 1-yard line as time expired. In 1991, Arkansas joined the Southeastern Conference. The next year, the SEC divided into 2 divisions. Both teams were placed in the SEC West. Ole Miss won the first conference contest in Little Rock by a score of 17-3. During the 2000s, the rivalry was reignited by a series of close games and coaching changes. The 2001 Ole Miss-Arkansas game set an INCA record for most overtime periods played 7. Arkansas won that game 58-56 off a 2-point Rebel conversion that got stopped just short of the goal line. Since then, 5 FBS football games have reached 7 overtime periods. In November 2007, Houston Nutt resigned as the head coach for Arkansas, was hired as Ole Miss head coach a week later. 2008 saw the first game between Ole Miss and Arkansas after Nutt left Arkansas to coach Ole Miss. The Rebels kicked a field goal with less than 3 minutes remaining to go up 23-14, but Arkansas scored with a minute left. Arkansas was awarded with the recovery of an onside kick, but received a penalty for offensive pass interference before turning the ball over on downs. Ole Miss and Nutt won 23-21. The following season, Ole Miss won 30-17, led by running back Dexter McCluster, who had over 200 all-purpose yards, including a 60-yard touchdown in the third quarter. In 2010, Arkansas finally beat their former coach Houston Nutt after a 38-24 game in Fayetteville. In 2015, the Rebels' 52-53 loss to Arkansas saw them fall out of first place in the SEC West and lose the division. Alabama. The Alabama-Ole Miss football rivalry is an American college football rivalry between the Alabama Crimson Tide and Ole Miss Rebels. Both universities are founding members of the Southeastern Conference (SEC) and have competed in the SEC Western Division since the 1992 season. It has been one of the conference's most lopsided rivalries. Alabama leads the series 48-11 to 59-2 without inconvocations and forfeits. From 2004-2013, Alabama won every game between the two teams, including 6 wins by double digits. However, in 2014, No. 11 Ole Miss beat No. 3 Alabama 23-17 for the first time since 2003. Ole Miss cornerback Senquez Golson sealed the victory with an interception in the fourth quarter. The victory catapulted Ole Miss to No. 3 in the AP poll, their highest ranking since 1964. In 2015, Ole Miss visited Alabama as double-digit underdogs. The Rebels upset the No. 2 Crimson, tied 43-37 for their second-ever victory in Tuscaloosa. This marked the first time Ole Miss had beaten Alabama in back-to-back seasons. Following the upset, Ole Miss jumped to No. 3 in the AP poll, marking the first time that Ole Miss had been ranked in the top 3 in consecutive seasons since 1963-64. Vanderbilt and Ole Miss have played annually since 1942. When the SEC split into divisions in 1992, the Commodores and Rebels were selected as permanent cross-division rivals. Ole Miss leads the all-time series 50-39-2. The Rebels have won 16 of the last 24 games, including 9 games by double digits. However, Vanderbilt has sustained the rivalry with a surprising blowout victory over the Rebels in 2016. Auburn leads the series 33-10 through the 2019 season. Memphis. The Ole Miss-Memphis football rivalry has also been a far less competitive rivalry series. The Rebels hold a 49-12 advantage over the Tigers in this non-conference series. The two schools have met 62 times from 1921 to 2019. Ole Miss won every game between 2005-2009, and the teams temporarily suspended competition from 2010 to 2013. The rivalry was resumed in 2014. Ole Miss won the game 24-3 to increase their winning streak against Memphis to 6 straight. In 2015, the Tigers upset No. 13 Ole Miss 37-24. The Rebels fell 11 spots in the AP poll to No. 24, and Memphis entered the rankings at No. 18. It was the Tigers' first victory over a ranked team since defeating No. 6 Tennessee in 1996. Memphis won the most recent matchup 15-10 on August 31, 2019. As of 2020, there are no future games scheduled between the two teams. Tulane. Ole Miss and Tulane have been rivals since the time that Tulane was an SEC member. Ole Miss leads the series 41-28 through the 2018 season. The teams are next scheduled to meet on September 21, 2021 in Oxford, with future games also scheduled for 2023 in New Orleans and 2025 in Oxford. Team of the Century. In 1992, to commemorate the 100th year of Ole Miss football, the Ole Miss athletic department put together a so-called Team of the Century, recognizing the outstanding accomplishments of 26 players. The head coach for the Team of the Century was Johnny Vaught, who coached Ole Miss from 1947-70 and again in 1973. Offense, defense, special teams, Hall of Fame, College Football Hall of Fame. Ole Miss has 9 players and 2 coaches in the College Football Hall of Fame, plus charter member. Plus played freshman year at Ole Miss, then appointed to the U.S. Military Academy where he played for Army as a sophomore, junior, and senior. Pro Football Hall of Fame. There have been 2 Ole Miss players inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Helms Athletic Foundation Hall of Fame. National Quarterback Club Hall of Fame. Ole Miss has 1 former player in the National Quarterback Club Hall of Fame. Active in the NFL. Bobby Massey, All Chicago Bears. Brandon Bolden, RB New England Patriots. Dante Moncrief, WR Houston Texans. Laramie Tunsil, All Houston Texans. Mike Hilton, DB Cincinnati Bengals. Woodrow Hamilton, DL Tennessee Titans. Evan Ingram, T New York Giants. D.J. Jones, DL San Francisco 49ers. Marquis Haynes, de Carolina Panthers. Lavon Hooks, de Pittsburgh Steelers. A.J. Moore, CB, Houston Texans. Jordan Wilkins, RB Indianapolis Colts. Greg Little, All Carolina Panthers. A.J. Brown, WR Tennessee Titans. D.K. Metcalf, WR Seattle Seahawks. Dawson Knox, T Buffalo Bills. Javon Patterson, All Cleveland Browns. Kendarius Webster, CB San Francisco 49ers. Tailgating. Confederate symbols. In 1972, Ole Miss first black football player, Ben Williams, was signed and began playing. The defensive tackle, recruited out of a small school in the Delta region of Mississippi, eventually claimed all SEC honors and had a long and successful NFL career following his stint at Ole Miss. Since 1983, the administration has distanced itself from Confederate symbols. In 1997, the University Student Senate passed a resolution requesting fans not to display the Confederate battle flag at university athletic events. The university also banned flagpoles to discourage fans from displaying the Confederate flag at football games and other athletic events after head coach Tommy Tuberville complained that the battle flag had hampered his attempts to recruit top-notch black athletes. Coaches prior to Tuberville also expressed concerns about the difficulty of recruiting black athletes. In 2003, the school's mascot, Colonel Reb, was discontinued from official participation in athletic events by the school. The school solicited ideas to replace Colonel Reb, but after an exceedingly lackluster response, decided to go without a mascot. An unofficial Colonel Reb mascot still makes appearances in the Grove, Ole Miss tailgating area before home games. In 2010, the university began its plan to phase out the use of Colonel Reb on official merchandise such as hats and shirts. The university has reclassified the Colonel Reb trademark as a historical mark of the university. On October 14, 2010, it was announced that students, alumni, and season ticket holders at the university had picked Rebel Black Bear as their new mascot. The announcement was the result of a campus-wide vote in February and months of polling. The bear beat out 2 other finalists, the Rebel Land Shark and something called the Hottie Toddy, an attempt to personify the school cheer. On October 6, 2017, Chancellor Jeffrey Vitter announced that the new university mascot would be the Land Shark, beginning with the 2018-19 season. The black bear will be replaced by the land shark, in reference to a celebratory hand symbol that players began using in 2008. Team honors. Chucky Mullins Courage Award. At the end of each spring's practices, the team plays the Grove Bowl, which pits Ole Miss players against each other. The senior defensive player who most embodies Chucky Mullins' spirit and courage receives the Chucky Mullins Memorial Courage Award and the right to wear Mullins' No. 38 jersey, which was otherwise retired in 2006. Recipients: 1990 Chris Mitchell, 1991 Jeff Carter, 1992 Tria Sutherland, 1993 Johnny Dixon, 1994 Alundis Bryce, 1995 Michael Lowery, 1996 Derek Jones, 1997 Nate Wayne, 1998 Gary Thigpen, 1999 Ronnie Hurd, 2000 Anthony Maggi, 2001 Kevin Thomas, 2002 Lanier Gothi, 2003 Jamal Northcutt, 2004 Eric Oliver, 2005 Kelvin Robinson, 2006 Patrick Willis, 2007 Jeremy Garrett, 2008 Jamarcus Sanford, 2009 Marcus Tillman, 2010 Kentrell Lockett, 2011 D.T. Shackelford, 2012 Jason Jones, 2013 Mike Mary, 2014 D.T. Shackelford, 2015 Mike Hilton, 2016 John Youngblood, 2017 Marquis Haynes, 2018 C.J. Moore, 2019 Austrian Robinson, 2020 Jalon Jones. Retired numbers. No. 10 Illy Manning. No. 18 Archie Manning. No. 38 Chucky Mullins. Future opponents. Intra-division opponents. Ole Miss plays the other 6 SEC West opponents once per season. Non-division opponents. Ole Miss plays Vanderbilt as a permanent non-division opponent annually and rotates around the East Division among the other 6 schools. Non-conference opponents. Announced schedules as of April 26, 2020. No games scheduled for the 2035-2036 seasons. The Rebels will face off against the Louisville Cardinals in 2021 in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta.